Again, up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar. My name is Craig Toth, your host of Minor League News and Brews, talking about everything around the Pirates minor league system and giving you some beer reviews at the end of the show. We've been to Indianapolis, down to Altoona, the whole way down to Bradenton, heading a little bit north for this one. We're going to Greensboro, the Greensboro Grasshoppers 2024 preview show, bringing to you guys first-time guest, actually first time me talking to him. I think it's going to be a good conversation. Andy Durham, the voice of the Greensboro Grasshoppers. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Kind of a busy weekend. Just got through calling 12 high school baseball games over 3 days, so I've been busy doing those. But we're ready to go with the Grasshoppers starting this coming Friday.
Yeah, I mean it's been an exciting weekend in the Pirates minor league system with the affiliates. Paul Skeens going for the Indianapolis Indians with all the other teams kind of waiting in the wings here a little bit, but it's definitely going to be an exciting exciting start to the year. But there were some changes to the Grasshoppers prior to this season. The first thing is a new staff hiring a local boy as the manager for the Grasshoppers, Blake Butler. I mean, that's a pretty exciting hire. Has to be for everybody in Greensboro there.
Yeah, especially his old high school people. He played for Southeast Guilford High School back in his high school days. I announced a few of his high school games. He actually played games in tournaments on this same First National Bank field where the Hoppers play. He actually played some high school games on this field, so he knows the territory pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very cool thing. A change from Robbie Hammock. Robbie'd been there for a couple years, moving up to Altoona, and you guys just had a baseball tournament down there that just ended this week.
Yeah, just got through last night. We finished up yesterday with a championship. We had 4 games over 3 days, total of 12 games. Had some good baseball. Like I say, it's a Southeast Guilford Greensboro Grasshoppers spring break baseball tournament. They're going about 13 years now. And the interesting thing, too, about it is the fact that Blake Butler, the new manager for the Grasshoppers, he actually played in the tournament back when he was in high school, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, very, very cool. And the other thing that that has happened with Greensboro this year is a little bit of a rebranding. A lot of stuff looks kind of similar to a degree, but definitely gets a fresh new look for the Grasshoppers team unveiled during this offseason. And I'm pretty sure you guys are pretty excited to put out those new uniforms.
Yeah, a lot of new merchandise. Got that new Grasshopper look, kind of a bolder, darker look in some ways. The new owner, Andy Sandler, decided to come with that, but it'd be a great idea to kind of give a little rebranding, a little refreshing. We got a new general manager, Tim Banjo, this season. He's been the assistant general manager to Donald Moore, who did it many, many years. Donald Moore ran the show for probably, I guess, about 23 years, and then Tim was with him probably maybe 21 of those 23 years. So got new people in the front office, and I got that new logo, some new stuff, and kind of a fresh new start in some ways.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to kind of see. And the other thing is that, I mean, before we hopped on here, I said I couldn't find anywhere how long you had been with the organization. I know that First National Bank Field was first brought in, I believe, 2005, and you've been announcing down there for probably longer than most of us can remember. It's one of those things where it's that saying, it's like you probably know more about baseball than everything that I've probably either learned or forgotten.
I've seen a few games over the years, no doubt about it. Did the first game ever at First National Bank Field for the Grasshoppers, and done pretty much every game since then at home. And did games last year, the Greensboro Bats at the old baseball stadium, War Memorial Stadium, did Bats games there. Even did Greensboro Hornets games back when the Hornets played at War Memorial Stadium. I did some games in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, and 20s, but took over full time and been doing it full time now, but all the home games, 20 years, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what people also, before we hopped on here, was talking about the fact that, I mean, you've been part of the Pirates organization now here for about 4 years. I mean, the COVID thing kind of threw everybody for a loop. I know that when Greensboro came back in and they became the high A team as opposed to the low A team, you guys and Bradenton had flip flopped a little bit. They tried the high A East and the high A West, and now it's the North and the South. But the Grasshoppers have been a little bit of a force. Had a little bit of a rough season in 2022, but for the most part have been in contention for all those other years. So it's good organization, good team, and we've seen a lot of good Pirates players come through there.
A lot of good Pirates players come through, and we saw some fairly good Marlins players come through too. Back to when they were with the Marlins in 2011. With the current Pirates hitting coach, Andy Haynes was our manager then back in 2011 when he was in the Marlins organization. Andy Haynes, the hitting coach now for the Pirates, he was a skipper in 2011. Had guys like Christian Yelich, Marcelo Ozuna, Isaac Galloway. We had Mark Cannon at first base, JT Realmuto behind the plate. Just a ton of good players back then when they won the titles. The first titles was back when the guys like Don Manley and those guys with the Yankees were here back in the 1980s. So it's been a long time, but Andy Haynes was the man then. He's still with the Pirates, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. It's man, just a lot of history there, a lot of cool stuff and everything. The one thing that does get brought up a lot is possibly like an offensive advantage. I looked at the Grasshoppers numbers last year. You had the Bowling Green Hot Rods. They were at about 175 home runs. Greensboro Grasshoppers at 170. Pretty distinct drop off to 135. And there's a couple teams there that didn't even hit 100 home runs. Beautiful stadium, absolutely beautiful. But the dimensions, I will say, Andy, are something that get talked a lot about up here in Pittsburgh because I have not been to the stadium. Luckily, my wife has been gracious enough to take a little detour on our trip down to Myrtle Beach this year so I can check out Greensboro. But the dimensions and the home runs and stuff is definitely stuff that gets talked about up here. What's your vantage point from the broadcast booth?
Well, it's a tough little thing to have because you've got a piece of land, the property where they built the stadium was not much room. They had to shoehorn the stadium in. It's a good fit. Like I say, it's a tight fit. I think it's to the team's advantage. I know a guy named Mike Stanton, that's what we called him back in the old days. Now John Carlin Stanton. He hit 39 homers here one year for the Greensboro Grasshoppers and the Marlins. So it's definitely a hitter's type park as far as that goes. Last year, Jackson Glenn had a game where he had like 3 homers in one game on a Sunday. The year before, Matt Gorski had 3 homers in one game on a Sunday. So it's definitely a hitter's park.
Yeah, and Andy, the one thing is that I don't know. I mean, I don't think you're pretty much. I don't know if you're social media silent or what it is, but did you know that you became a pretty famous person on social media last year?
Yeah, I heard about that one when Jackson Glenn said, I made sure I got my money's worth out of that one for sure because I saw those. And, there's a few crazy ones, there's a few good ones, but the thing is, my thought is on that, hey, a lot of people saw it and heard it. A lot of people heard it, yeah.
Yeah, did that just come naturally? Did you just decide to jump out there and do it, or was it just?
I've been doing that since here's how it goes. It's kind of a story, if we can tell a story. Back when I first started doing baseball games back in the 80s, I worked with a guy named Bill Wardle, who was from Pittsburgh, by the way. He moved to the Carolinas, and he was a kind of Tar Heel pitcher in college. And then Bill opened up some laundries in Greensboro, some corn-operated laundries, good businessman. He also loved baseball. They got him to start calling and announcing some baseball games with the old Greensboro Hornets. A guy named Bob Lick. Anyway, I got with Bill. Bill said, I want you to help me on some games. I started helping on some games. I thought I was going to get the deal to be a color commentator, but then later on, Bill said, get out in the stands with a scorebook, start keeping score because you're going to fill in for me when I'm gone. So, and then when I got in the press box, I started doing games. Bill said, you got to have a home run call. I said, this is interesting, home run call. I've heard some people do some of those. And I said, well, I came up with that sucker's long gone, and I've used it ever since.
Yeah, and like I said, it was something that definitely hit a spark here. Got you on there, and it was very cool, very cool to see. And like we've talked about.
It's a little different. It's the kind of thing I can hold that long gone call if I'm lucky. I can hold it the whole time they go around the bases. What I did last year, I said, this thing has gotten pretty interesting. People have heard it a lot. I think I want to change it a little bit. So I tweaked it later in the season. I started doing a long gone thing. We hit second base. And then, I let up a little bit right before he got home and hit it again. But I did some adjustments. I actually used it in a high school tournament. That tournament this weekend, I used it again. I hadn't brought it up in a long time. I said, "Oh, I still got it." It's still hanging around with that call. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely. Like I said, very, very, very enjoyable for us up here, and especially anytime like a Pirates minor league organization gets mentioned. I mean, I'm a huge minor league baseball fan, so for me, it's always a very cool thing to see. And you talk about all the players that have come up, throughout the system, and within the past few years for the Pirates, you've had Tamar Johnson there, Leo Piguero, Bubba Chandler. I mean, just the list goes on and on. And the excitement for the Pirates, I mean, obviously, as an organization, for Pirates fans, they want to see that excitement, up in the upper levels and different stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that there won't still be, some good prospects, some good players that are going to be coming through Greensboro this year. Coming to
One guy you were talking about too. You talked about some of the guys up there. Jared Jones actually pitched here a little while too back in his day. So he had a pretty good major league debut. I think he struck out 10. So he's another guy. And there's, like you said, there's been a ton of guys that came through. Henry Davis was here briefly too, his one season through here. And then you mentioned Tamar Johnson. Also, when Jack Brannigan got here last year, Jack was hot from the very beginning. I think he hit home run his first game. He was really hot here last summer.
Yeah, and there's going to be more this year because I mean I'm looking at, I know the rosters haven't been officially announced yet. That's the quirks of trying to record a preview show. For a lot of the times, I mean I did one with Jack McMullen. We did the first one and we thought Indianapolis would be easier to predict, and that one kind of even got thrown for a loop at different times. So this one, it gets even more difficult with starting a little bit later and everything. But I mean, I look at like a pitcher like Owen Kellington, who pitched well in Bradenton last year. Mitch Jebb, second round draft pick out of Michigan State. Charles McAdoo. I mean, unfortunately, I thought that maybe Shunshuk Shim would be there, but I saw he went on the 60-day. Thomas Harrington, a guy who, struggled a little bit at the beginning of last year in Greensboro, but then kind of turned it on a little bit. He's dealing with a little bit of a shoulder issue, but there's still going to be a decent amount of, promising prospects that are going to pass their way through Greensboro this year.
Yeah, I was impressed with Harrington last year. Harrington and Bubba Chandler were two pretty good, solid pitchers last year. Struggled some Harrington, but I think if he's back again this year, it could bode him well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing with I talked to I mean, like I said, you've seen a lot of baseball, but everybody talks about the step up from AAA to the majors, but in my opinion, I mean, going from high A to double A, that's like one of the bigger steps as well, because you're getting in there with guys who are learning to locate their stuff a lot better. They're getting a lot more polished. And so I know that, like I said, I don't want to go back to it, but people are saying, well, the numbers are big in Greensboro and then they're not as big when they come to Altoona. And yes, some of that may have to do with the field, but also it has to do with the level of competition.
Oh, yeah, it changes for sure. I mean, you look at Indianapolis, you got Leo Piguero, you got Nick Gonzalez, Quinn Priester, J.C. Flowers, several guys there. And you got some guys at double A doing pretty well, too. So it does change a lot. And you see guys who you thought would be at the major league level, they get sent back down to begin the season, but those guys are coming back up later on too. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's definitely a very I mean, baseball is just hard. I mean, it's fun and we all enjoy it, but the guys that are out there doing it every day, it's extremely difficult. But I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but I always ask the guys are the broadcasters, if there is like maybe one hitter and one pitcher that you're possibly, looking forward to seeing this year. If it's somebody repeating, that's fine as well. But just as a broadcaster and a baseball fan, a game that you get to call, are there any guys that you're hoping to see this year that you maybe didn't get to see, or guys that you may get to see again?
If I could see this one kid, I'm not sure he's going to be at Nick Samillo. If I could see him again, I'd like to see him again, the catcher. I'm not sure if it'll be at double A or here, but there's a good chance. He came in last year with that bunch of Bradenton kids. They sent a bunch in from Bradenton. Brannigan, Samillo, Joshua Seitler, and also Tamar Johnson all came within a couple weeks of each other. So it's like Braden's, here's your guy, because they called several of our guys up to the next level, the double A, and then we got those Bradenton kids. I want to see what some of those guys will do this year.
And what about is there anybody on the pitching side for you there, Andy?
I'll stick with Harrington right now since I know a little bit about him from last year. We'll see. There was one name I saw. You may not know much about this name. His name is out there, but who knows? I saw this name, Patrick Riley. Does that ring a bell anywhere?
It definitely does. Patrick Riley got to play in the breakout game down in Bradenton. Struck out 3. Stuff looked really good. And yeah, a lot of people probably hadn't heard of him before that, just because a draft pick from the previous year, the Pirates. I mean, at times like will slow play their pitchers, especially the year after they draft them, because you don't know how many innings they pitched in college, high school. They like to bring them down to Pirate City and work them out a little bit. But yeah, Patrick Riley is somebody who I feel could like maybe jump onto people's radar a little bit more this year.
That would be a good move to have him here as a possibility. It's going to be interesting too, because the funny thing is you want to know how they work these things. The rosters haven't been flipped yet, but we do see the coaching staff that's coming in, like you mentioned before, with Blake Butler being in charge, and Jonathan Prieto, the hitting coach, was here last year. Everybody else is fairly new this year. Casey Harms, the bench coach, Matt Myers, pitching coach, Ethan Goforth, catching coach, and Quentin Brown, performance coach. So all those guys are fairly new. But we do have, see, Blake was actually here a couple of years ago as a coach. They called him a performance coach back then. He was here when he was young, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but we went to Double A last year. So Blake worked here before, but they kept him really quiet that year. They didn't have much access to him, to the media, and want to keep kind of low profile, I guess. But he's definitely in a high profile spot now, Blake Butler. Definitely high profile.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've noticed. I talk about all the time when I'm doing this show with the Pirates organization and different stuff is that each year it seems to be that they're adding different coaches and different stuff to the staff. They do those performance coaches. It's something that John Baker and Ben Cherington implemented, but now you have like that catching and it's almost like a game preparation type of coach. And Ethan is somebody who, it was a former Pirates farmhand. I know he was down in the DSL doing some coaches, but that's a very interesting position in a coaching staff because you get guys that will actually work with the catchers, a lot of former catchers, that's what they all are. And to basically kind of build those guys, which can help out the pitching. It's a very interesting coaching position.
It is. It's interesting, too, how it's kind of changed over the years and changed from different organizations when you change from one team to the other. Because it used to be, you go downstairs for the afternoon, visit with the manager, the skipper, you'd see him, you'd see the hitting coach and also the pitching coach. You had 3 guys, that was it. Nobody else was in there. You get all the roving instructors who were pretty well known after a period of time. They would come to hit instructors. They would visit for maybe a week at a time, but didn't have as many coaches like you say you do now.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is I sent you some notes beforehand, and the one thing that I cannot forget to mention about this, and it's a very cool thing. Minor league baseball is a joy, and the Greensboro Grasshoppers do something that is absolutely amazing, and I actually can't wait for all my kiddos to see it. The Bat Dogs. Is something that other places have it, but it kind of seems like that Greensboro has fully embraced it.
Yeah, they really have. I think it's the Black Labs, and they've had sometimes as many as 3 at one time around the office. But those dogs really get a lot of attention, and I mean you'll be broadcasting the game, and when you hear a roar of the crowd come at a certain time, you think, oh, I'm missing something. Oh, no, it's just the dog. You know it's the dog. You know when the dog's coming out because you hear the crowd respond, and you just know that's that time of the game.
Yeah, it's definitely very cool, and they all have,
You hear the dog is dragging a bat. I mean, you've seen bat. Everybody's seen a bat boy, or maybe sometimes a bat girl in some cases. But when you see a dog dragging a bat, he's got it in his mouth, holding it square, going from home plate back to the dugout. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they all have a very unique names, and that's the other part of it. And it's all tied into baseball. It's so cool.
Yeah, they had Yogi Berra, they had Miss Lou, like Lou Gehrig, and a little, whatever his name. They had all those baseball names, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a very cool thing, and like I said, I can't wait for my kids to see it this year. It's a place I've always wanted to go. People who listen to this show know that even though I'm in Pennsylvania and I grew up in the mountains, driving through the mountains and driving across bridges are not my friends. So my wife said we're gonna drive to Myrtle Beach this year, and I'm gonna drive you through and get to see Greensboro. But Andy, like I said, I am very, very excited that you were able to jump on here. Always want to talk to somebody from Greensboro. Hoping that at some point in time we can do this again as the season progresses. And then also, when I get down there, maybe I'll just come by and say hi.
Hop in, yes, do so. And two more notes before we leave. Quick note: Derek Shelton, the Pirates skipper, he actually played in Greensboro and the Greensboro Hornets back in 1993. It was kind of interesting. He played here back in the day. Let's back to the Dogs. They not only drag the bats, they also bring out buckets of balls to the umpires, which is kind of in their mouth, which is kind of interesting.
That's very, very cool. We've got Derek Shelton, we've got Andy Haynes, we've got dogs dragging bats and balls. For anybody that doesn't, please follow this podcast, listen to it. And like I said, Andy, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate this. And to everybody who's listening to this, we're recording it on Easter, so happy Easter out there to all who celebrate.
Very good. We appreciate your time too and the good work you're doing. Hope to see you in Greensboro when you drive through your wife going to Myrtle Beach.
Are you a fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates and supporting small businesses? If so, Bucks in the Basement has you covered. Introducing the Bucks in the Basement Vouch Store with products from places like Split Rock Coffee. Coffee with a purpose. Established, owned, and operated by disabled veterans, sworn to protect America. Or Camp Craft Cocktails. More than cocktails. It's a mission to build longer tables where everyone is welcome. We try and vouch for these products. Bucks in the Basement, proudly brought to you by Vouch. Visit our Vouch store at bucksinthebasement.com or simply click on the link in the show notes. Back when I used to do the blogging, which if anybody hasn't noticed, I'm pretty sure most of you have, I've gone audio only here. No more blogging for me at the moment. But every week, when I did blog, I brought you guys the top 5 Pirates prospect performers for the previous week. Obviously, this week, with only 3 games between the Indianapolis Indians and the Louisville Bats, it is going to be a case of extremely small sample sizes, but it's still kind of fun to look at who's getting off to a hot start. We got 2 pitchers and 3 position players, 3 hitters for you guys today. Number 1, Quinn Priester. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 earned run, 1 base on ball, and 1 K. The one thing you'll notice is that his max velocity on his sinker was at 96.1. The max velocity on his four-seamer, 96.4. The four-seamer's average velocity was up 1.9 miles per hour. And his slider actually saw a bump in the average velocity by 2.4 miles per hour, getting 6 whiffs and 4 called strikes on that slider, 20 whiffs total. Number 2, Paul Skeens. 3 innings pitched, 0 hits, 0 runs, 0 earned runs, 0 base on balls, and 5 Ks. 12 whiffs, 12 pitches over 100 miles per hour, 5 swings on that slider, 4 whiffs, a total of 6 called strikes and whiffs. And the one thing that really stuck out to me, the man's changeup averages 94.8 miles per hour. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Number 3, Nick Gonzalez. Yep, Chris and I talked about him last week on Bucks in the Basement, and Chris called me out for dropping him on our Dynasty League. He led off all 3 games, 15 plate appearances, 4 Ks, 0 walks, a 400 average, a 1.133 OPS, a home run, and 2 doubles. Number 4, Gilberto Celestino. Pirates signed him to a minor league contract back right before Thanksgiving in 2023. Had played some time in Minnesota, got 370 career MLB at bats. Average in OPS doesn't look great during that time. 238 average, a 615 OPS. So far for the Indianapolis Indians, 14 plate appearances, 3 walks, 2 Ks, 2 doubles. Good for a 455 average and a 1.207 OPS. Number 5, Liover Peguero. Everybody was sad when Liover got sent down. Chris and I talked about the flu bug that kind of caught him, needs to work himself back up. Liover got 15 plate appearances, 0 walks, 4 Ks, 2 doubles, good for a 333 average and an 800 OPS. Hoping that Liover keeps it going. If Nick Gonzalez keeps it going, it's going to be a good problem to have all of those guys in the middle infield to go along with Jared Triolo. And if you guys like this segment, I am going to try to do this every week, keep it going to kind of fill in during minor league news and brews, and give you guys a little update of who the top 5 Pirates prospect performers are each week.
A pitcher of beer, a pitcher of beer, let's order another pitcher of beer. That pitcher of beer should come over here. I love that pitcher of beer.
Even though we were doing the 2024 Greensboro Grasshoppers season preview, I still have to finish off some of the delicious beers I tried during my time down in Bradenton for spring training, the prospect breakout game. The one night that I kind of took it easy and didn't take in, 12 hours of baseball, I stopped by Motor Works Brewing, really close to the ballpark. The first beer I had, Daily Rations, a Florida Session IPA, coming in at 3.5% ABV. Give that one a 475, knock it down to 425. The second beer, this is a light lager, 4.5%. Give that one a 425, knock it down to 375. A hatchback hazy, 5.4% ABV. Give that one a 450, knock it down to 400. And finally, the Longboat Light, a light citrus lager. Like the little bit of the citrus taste on this one, 4.5%. Give it a 450, knock it down to 400. Next week, I will be reviewing the beers that I drank on Easter, had an adult Easter egg hunt. One of our friends was kind enough to hide a 6-pack of beers for us. Also went out to brunch for Easter with the wife and my youngest. So guys, until next time, let's go Indians, let's go Curve, let's go Hoppers, and let's go Bradenton Marauders.